Welcome to the deep dive. This is where we take the information you care about, pull out the key insights, and basically get you well informed fast.
Right, in a way that actually sticks. Think of it as your shortcut to really understanding the core ideas.
Exactly. And today we're diving into, well, trading psychology. We're looking at Mark Douglas's book, Trading in the Zone.
Classic. It really tackles that big question.
Yeah, the head scratcher.
hmm
Why do so many really smart, accomplished people, from all sorts of fields just struggle to make consistent money in the markets?
hmm And this deep dive, it's really for you, the person who shared this source with us. Our goal is to unpack the crucial psychological differences.
Between the traders who consistently win and those who seem stuck in that, cycle of frustration.
Exactly that. We want to give you those aha moments,
Yeah.
bring some clarity so you feel knowledgeable, not sort of bogged down in jargon.
Okay, let's dive in. And maybe start with something that Douglas says, which is honestly kind of surprising.
Oh, yeah. What's that?
He makes this point that many of the absolute best market analysts, the people who are brilliant at dissecting charts and trends,
Yeah.
they're often surprisingly bad traders.
Right. That's such a key point. It tells you straight away that intelligence, even amazing market analysis, isn't the secret sauce for consistent profits.
It really challenges that first instinct, doesn't it? When things go wrong, you immediately think,
I need to learn more.
yeah.
Find a better indicator, study harder.
But Douglas argues that chasing more market knowledge as the only fix, that can actually be a trap.
It really can.
Hmm.
It's this common assumption, right? That if I just do more analysis, I'll get consistent, I'll stop losing money. People become like data sponges.
Constantly glued to screens, charts, news.
But here's the counter argument from Douglas.
Mhm.
The market is it's huge. So many variables, often conflicting.
Yeah,
And crucially,
it can do anything.
anything, at any moment. No amount of analysis, no matter how deep, can possibly predict every outcome or factor in every other trader's actions.
Which are often not rational anyway.
Precisely. So something unforeseen can always just wipe out the most careful analysis.
So if brilliant analysis isn't the main key,
Yeah.
what is the real roadblock? What trips people up?
Well, according to Douglas, it really comes down to the trader's own psychology. It's the internal stuff.
Like fear.
Fear is huge, especially the fear of being wrong and the fear of losing actual money. Those fears, they sabotage everything.
Even if your analysis is spot on.
Yeah, because fear clouds your judgment. It makes you hesitate or jump the gun. It undermines your own strategy. Your brain literally prioritizes the perceived threat over objective data.
It narrows your focus.
Exactly. Helpful maybe if a lion is chasing you, but not so helpful in the market.
Okay, so this really forces a rethink, doesn't it? For anyone listening who wants to, get a handle on this quickly, maybe just cramming more market data isn't the first step.
It might even be looking in the wrong direction initially. You got to consider your own mind first.
Which brings us to the core message of trading in the zone, right?
Absolutely. The central idea is that the consistent winners they think differently. They've built a specific mental framework.
A mindset.
A mindset, yeah. Characterized by things like discipline, focus, confidence, even when things go wrong.
Which is the total opposite of what struggling traders often feel. Douglas describes that emotional roller coaster.
Oh, yeah. Fear, anger, frustration, anxiety, disappointment, regret, feeling betrayed by the market.
It sounds exhausting. I've definitely felt that regret selling too soon. It's like the market knows.
It feels like that sometimes. But the key insight here is that this winning mindset, it's not something you're born with.
You can learn it.
Douglas is very clear. It's a learnable skill, like learning a golf swing or playing the piano. It takes practice and effort.
But he also admits it's not always easy. It might involve some emotional pain or financial bumps along the way.
For sure. Developing that mental toughness often means confronting uncomfortable feelings and maybe making mistakes. It's part of the process.
Okay, that leads us into these interesting paradoxes he talks about. Things that work in normal life can actually backfire in trading.
Exactly. It's very counterintuitive sometimes. He gives the example of risk. Trading is obviously risky, right?
Definitely.
But unlike, say, poker or blackjack in a casino, the market doesn't force you to define your risk up front.
Ah, right. In poker, you have to put your chips in before the next card.
Precisely. In trading, technically, you can just jump into a position without clearly saying, okay, this is the maximum I'm willing to lose on this.
And without that external structure, well, that opens the door to some dangerous thinking, doesn't it?
Totally. You can start believing, maybe subconsciously, that this trade, It just can't lose. Wishful thinking takes over.
You rationalize holding on to losers way too long.
Exactly,
Yeah.
because you never fully confronted and accepted the risk before you got in. That difference catches so many people out.
So fear again, it seems like the main villain here. Douglas points to 4 main trading fears.
He does, yeah, he kind of boils them down. There's the fear of being wrong, the fear of losing money,
Makes sense.
the fear of missing out FOMO,
Oh yeah, FOMO is real.
and then the fear of leaving money on the table, like getting out too early.
Right, that regret we mentioned. So these 4 are the big drivers of mistakes.
He argues they fuel most of the self-sabotage. They aren't just feelings. They actively distort how you see the market.
How so?
Well, fear acts like a filter. It narrows what you pay attention to. If you're afraid of being wrong, you might unconsciously ignore signals that contradict your trade idea.
You only see what confirms your bias.
Exactly. And that leads straight to those classic errors. Entering too early or too late, not cutting losses, bailing on winners too soon because you're scared the profit will vanish.
It's weird, isn't it, that being sort of cautious or having a healthy fear of the market could actually be the problem.
It's one of the big paradoxes. That fear makes you hesitate when you need to act or panic and make impulsive moves. It causes the very thing you're afraid of.
That's unsettling, thinking your own fear could blind you to a winning trade right in front of you.
It is. But understanding that mechanism, for you listening, can actually be empowering. It means it's not just the market being random. It's also about how you react.
Which I guess leads us directly to the solution, or part of it, risk acceptance.
Yes, exactly. This is fundamental. Douglas says you have to cultivate genuine risk acceptance. Not just saying it, but really feeling it.
And when you truly accept that any trade can lose without fighting it emotionally, what happens?
Then market information just becomes information, neutral data. It loses its power to hurt you emotionally or trigger those fear responses.
It's not a threat anymore.
Right. It's just feedback about possibilities, which is totally different from trying to eliminate all risk by analyzing everything to death.
Which he calls the black hole of analysis.
Yeah, because you can never get enough analysis to guarantee certainty. It's a futile chase. But hang on, surely some analysis is needed to find good trades, right? To find an edge.
Oh, absolutely. It's not about no analysis, but realizing analysis alone isn't the fix for psychological issues. Which brings up another point. Attitude versus analysis.
Right. He makes this bold claim. A trader with maybe a mediocre system, but the right mindset, disciplined, accepting risk, will probably do better long term.
Than a brilliant analyst who's crippled by fear and hope.
Exactly. The attitude often trumps the analytical skill when it comes to consistent results.
He also talks about the zone. That sounds a bit like, peak athletic performance.
It's a similar idea, a state of mental flow, effortless action, clear perception. It's not about trying to force wins or grab money from the market.
It's more about being present and available.
Yeah, being calm, focused, and just ready to take advantage of opportunities as they unfold naturally, without internal conflict.
Almost like you're perfectly in sync.
Kind of. Your conscious mind isn't fighting your subconscious urges. You trust your process, you see clearly, you act decisively.
Interestingly, he warns about winning without that mindset, especially early on.
Yes, that can be dangerous. Early wins, especially if they feel easy, can create this false sense of confidence, maybe even feel like the zone.
But it's not sustainable.
Not if it's built on luck or ignorance of risk rather than solid psychology. It can lead to recklessness, bigger bets, and then eventually big painful losses when reality hits.
Okay, another concept he uses is the market as a mirror. What does that mean?
It's a really insightful idea. Basically, the market reflects your internal state back at you. If you feel confident and calm trading.
It's not the market making you feel that way.
Not directly. It's more likely reflecting your own aligned beliefs, your trust in your plan, your acceptance of outcomes. You're bringing that state to the market.
And the flip side, if you're always feeling angry, scared, frustrated,
That's probably the market mirroring your internal conflict, your resistance, maybe your tendency to blame external factors instead of looking inward.
the trap of not taking responsibility.
Exactly. And if you blame the market for your losses, you never learn. You just think, I need more market knowledge. And the painful cycle continues.
Because you're looking for the fix in the wrong place?
Right. The solution starts with taking full responsibility for every action, every reaction, every result. Stop expecting the market to give you anything.
Once you do that, the market stops being this, enemy you're fighting.
Precisely. You're no longer fighting the market, which really means you're no longer fighting yourself. And that opens the door to actual learning and growth.
So consistency then. That thing everyone wants. It's not something out there in the market.
It originates in your mind. It's a natural result, a byproduct of having the right beliefs and attitudes, especially about uncertainty and risk.
And he says actively trying to be consistent can actually mess things up.
Yeah, it's another paradox. Trying too hard can create pressure, take you out of the moment, out of that natural opportunity flow.
Whereas the best trades often feel
Easy.
effortless.
That's what he suggests. When you're truly present, aligned, trusting your edge, there's no internal struggle. You just see it. You do it. Effortless execution.
Okay, let's talk about how our minds work. Douglas discusses the association process and how it can lead to perceptual blindness.
This is fascinating. Our minds are constantly linking things. Present market action gets linked to past experiences.
Especially painful ones like big losses.
Definitely. So a setup now might look similar to one where you lost money before, and your mind instantly associates it with danger, with pain.
Even if objectively the risk is different this time.
Yes. Your past experience creates a bias, distorting how you perceive the current risk. You might see danger where there's less, or maybe miss danger because a similar past trade was a winner.
And this can literally make you blind to good opportunities.
That's the perceptual blindness part. Fear makes you filter information. If a clear trend looks anything like a past loser, your fear might just block you from even seeing the opportunity properly. It's perceived as a threat.
Wow. So becoming aware of that automatic association is crucial.
Absolutely. Gaining conscious control over it is key.
Let's revisit the zone. How does it relate to this? It sounds like being totally in sync.
It is. It's like sensing the market's next move, almost intuitively. Like there's no barrier between you and the market flow.
And getting there means being totally open to what the market is showing you right now.
Yes, in the now moment opportunity flow, as he calls it. It requires overcoming that potential fight between your logical, analytical side
The left brain.
and your more creative, intuitive side, the right brain. Often the logical mind wants patterns, certainty, based on the past. And it can shut down those gut feelings or intuitive insights.
So you need both working together.
Ideally, yes. A harmony between analysis and intuition, both grounded in the reality of the present moment.
Which brings us back to a core theme, uncertainty. Douglas really hammers this home.
He does. It's unavoidable. There are always unknown factors. The biggest one, all the other traders out there and what they believe and might do next.
So every single trade has an uncertain outcome, period.
Period. And believing you know for sure what's going to happen next, that, he says, is the root cause of most trading mistakes.
Thinking you've got it figured out.
Yes. That false certainty makes you ignore risks, bend rules. The best traders accept the uncertainty. They factor in those unknown variables instead of pretending they don't exist.
Which naturally leads to thinking in probabilities.
The absolute cornerstone. It's one thing to say the market is uncertain.
It's another thing to actually operate from that premise.
Totally different. Our minds naturally want certainty. They look for known patterns from the past. But the market is always now, always unique in some way.
So the successful traders, they accept they don't know which specific trade will work out.
Right. They know their edge gives them a statistical advantage over many trades, not on this trade. So they focus on taking every valid setup according to their plan.
To get a large enough sample size for the probabilities to play out.
Exactly like a casino operates. Whereas the struggling trader wants to be right now on this trade, leading to overanalysis, hesitation, or forcing trades that aren't really there.
Okay, so to really cement this probabilistic mindset, Douglas offers 5 fundamental truths.
Yes, these are like the core beliefs you need to internalize. Let's list them. 1, anything can happen.
Anything. Okay.
2, you don't need to know what's going to happen next to make money.
That's counterintuitive, but key.
3, there's a random distribution between wins and losses for any given edge. You won't have streaks that are perfectly predictable.
Right. Wins and losses come in clumps sometimes.
4, an edge is just that, an indication of a higher probability of one thing happening over another. Not a guarantee.
Just better odds.
And 5, every moment in the market is unique. History doesn't repeat exactly.
Got it. So just knowing these 5 things isn't enough, is it?
No, you have to believe them deeply. Integrate them so they become part of your core operating system as a trader.
And when you do that,
It aligns your expectations with reality. It neutralizes the emotional sting of uncertainty and random losses. You stop fighting the nature of the market.
because your beliefs shape everything, perception, expectations, behavior, how you feel about results.
They're always running, often unconsciously, So you need these truths to be core, non-conflicting beliefs.
He mentions stages of development, mechanical, subjective, intuitive. That first mechanical stage sounds crucial for building this foundation.
It really is. That's where you focus purely on execution. Build self-trust by following your system perfectly, without overrides. That's how you start experiencing probabilistic thinking.
So for someone listening, maybe struggling with the psychology, focusing on that rigorous mechanical execution first is key, even if you don't fully get why yet.
Absolutely. It builds the foundation. Trust the process, execute flawlessly, let the results teach you about probabilities.
Okay, and building on those truths are the 7 principles of consistency, more practical guidelines.
Yeah, these are like the action rules that stem from the mindset. Let's run through them quickly. 1, objectively identify your edges, know what they are, clearly defined.
2, predefine the risk of every trade before you enter.
3, completely accept that risk or just don't take the trade. No halfway acceptance.
4, act on your edges without reservation or hesitation. See the signal, take the trade.
5, pay yourself as the market makes money available. Take profits systematically based on your plan.
6, continually monitor yourself for errors. Be self-aware.
And 7, understand these principles are absolutely necessary and therefore never violate them. Commit fully.
And like the truths, just reading these isn't enough. You have to practice them, create experiences that align with them.
Exactly. Like drilling in sports. You build the mental muscle memory so these become almost automatic, overriding those fear-based impulses.
And he actually gives us specific exercise for this, right? A key takeaway.
A very powerful one. He basically says, pick your system, your edge, then trade it exactly as designed, no deviations, no second guessing, for at least the next 20 times that edge appears.
20 trades in a row, strictly by the rules.
Yep. The idea is to force yourself to operate like a casino, rely purely on the statistical edge over a series of events, detached from the outcome of any single trade.
Sounds simple, but probably incredibly hard in practice.
That's the point. The difficulty you feel, the urge to break the rules that reveals your internal conflicts with probabilistic thinking.
So the exercise itself is diagnostic.
Exactly. He advises watching yourself closely during it. Notice the urges to deviate. Use self-discipline. Keep the 5 truths and 7 principles in front of you. Refocus on the objective. Flawless execution for 20 trades.
Okay, so let's try and wrap this up. The big takeaway from this deep dive into trading in the zone, it's really that consistent success isn't mainly about finding the perfect analysis method.
No, it's fundamentally about your mindset. It's about learning to think in probabilities, truly accepting risk, and mastering your own internal psychological game.
It's an inside job, basically.
That's a great way to put it. Shifting from seeking certainty and fearing loss to embracing uncertainty and managing risk effectively.
And remembering that surprising fact from the start, brilliant analysts can fail miserably if they haven't done this internal work.
Absolutely critical to remember. The mind game is often the deciding factor.
So, a final thought for everyone listening. Maybe think about your last trade. How much of that decision was pure analysis? And how much was maybe driven by fear of being wrong or hope or FOMO?
Yeah, and what might change, what shifts might happen if you approached your next few trades with a conscious, full acceptance that the outcome is genuinely uncertain? What would that feel like?
Definitely something to ponder. If these ideas clicked for you, digging into the actual book, Trading in the Zone, especially the exercises, could be really valuable.
For sure. It offers a practical path to cultivating that winning mindset.
Great stuff. Thanks for joining us on the deep dive.